My name is David Hartful Jr., and I want to talk to you today about the Watts Riot's Riff Raff theory. Now, what was the criminal Riff Raff theory? Well, it was a theory that all of the damage in the Watts riots happened from a small group of malcontents that are just criminals, and they were criminals before the riot. The majority of Watts was against the riots and did not understand why the people were so upset and they needed to burn things. And if this theory is true, then no systematic change is needed, because it's almost like a Calvinist perspective, that there are certain people that are just inherently bad, nothing can be done about it, and that, you know, it's just something we should expect to happen sometimes. So this study was titled Participation in the LA Riots. It was conducted by David Sears of UCLA and John McConaughey from Yale. It was conducted in 1965, but it wasn't published until 1968 in the Oxford Journal of Social Problems. And the goal was to determine how many people were actually involved in the Watts riots. And once we understand how many people in the Watts riots, get a good estimate and see if the criminal riff-raff theory actually held true. So the survey was conducted with 586 residents from the curfew zone. Now, during the riots, the governor actually cordoned off an area 1.5 times the size of Manhattan and put it under martial law. The researchers went to the 1960 census and gathered 586 random names, and those people actually lived in the riot zone in 1965. Now, there was a second set of people, 124 arrestees that were gathered from a free legal service. This legal service had helped people arrested in the riots. Now, of the 586 people, and both groups, they had all black interviewers. And they asked the people, were they personally involved in the riot? How many people in their estimation participated? And was the riot a necessary form of protest and did it have a positive effect? So from the 586 sample, they estimated how many people were involved in the Watts riots. So from that 586 person sample, 20% admitted to being involved in the rioting themselves. And then the next question was, in their estimation, how many people were involved in Watts riots? And the average answer was about 20%. So that was two ways of asking the question or finding out if people were involved. They both validated each other. And then the question was asked, do they believe it was a positive form of social protest, an actual form of social protest, or was it random violence? And so of the people that participated, most of them saw it as a net positive. They had been pushing for social change for years, and no one would listen. And this was a necessary step to get people to listen to them. Now, the people that didn't riot, most of them did not agree with rioting. However, they did understand how the social conditions of riots could drive people to act violently. And this violent action resulted in the riot. So ultimately, everyone in Watts, or the vast majority of people in Watts, pretty much agreed with the riot and understood why it happened. Now, as far as validation, the previous estimates for Watts rioting from the McCone Commission and the newspaper was between 7,000 and 10,000. The 20% number from this survey, when extrapolated from the population size, yielded about 31,000 rioters and 65,000 close spectators. And so we know that 4,000 people were arrested. So if you take the original estimate of 10,000 people, that means police actually arrested 40% of the rioters, which is a little bit unrealistic. I mean, even if you think the cops are very efficient, it's hard to believe they would arrest 40% of the people perpetrating the crime. Now, I've used the 31,000 number. That's about 13% of the of the people that were participating in the riot got arrested, which is a lot more realistic. Also, there was 1,000 people, 1,000 buildings damaged in an area 1.5 times the size of Manhattan. So that right there points closer to 31,000 people than 10,000. So why is this important today? I think for integralists, we have to really understand what is the role of riots in social justice. Are they always something that's never justifiable and always counterproductive? Or are they a last resort for the unheard and sometimes necessary in an extreme circumstance? Now, I'm not arguing either way. However, I think we need to look at the holistic reasons why these riots happen. Now, as integralists, we're going to try to implement solutions that are involved in personal development, community unity, where we try to help each other out and without the government. And then also we're going to use some government solutions too, because at some point there will be the need for wealth redistribution into communities that need more resources to get things done because they're working with a deficit. So that's all I have to say for today, all I have to talk about. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Feel free to comment below, and if you want to support by giving through PayPal at sdandrace@gmail.com. Thank you.